Dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, currently entire world is in the grip of a new disease called COVID-19. This disease was first described in December 2019 from Wuhan city of China. Unfortunately, over next few months only, this disease has spread to all the continents. It is well known that awareness is the key for containment of any epidemic. Hence, All India Institute of Medical Science in New Delhi has come up with a series of webinars on COVID-19. We hope that these webinars will be useful resource for all the stakeholders involved in management of COVID-19. The current talk, titled Epidemiology, Clinical Feature and Diagnosis of COVID-19, is the part of that webinar series. So this talk, I will try to cover the following parts regarding COVID-19. First, we will discuss what is COVID-19, its epidemiology or the current situation, how it infects human, how contagious is this disease, how fatal it is, what are the clinical features, how to diagnose the disease, and finally conclusions. So coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from common cold to more severe disease such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and more recently a novel coronavirus, which is a new strain that has not been previously described in humans. In general, coronaviruses are zoonotic, meaning thereby they are transmitted between animals and people. SARS coronavirus was transmitted from civet cats to human. MERS COVID virus from camels to human, and there are several known coronaviruses that are circulating in animals that have not yet infected humans. On December 31st, 2019, WHO China Country Office was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown etiology which were detected in Wuhan city of China, and later on a novel virus initially called as 2019 new coronavirus was identified as causative agent for that pneumonia. Later on, this new virus was designated as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, and the disease caused by this virus was named as COVID-19. And also there is data on phylogenetic analysis of 103 patients, and it has been identified that there are two strains of this COVID virus which are type L and type S. The type L was responsible for initial epidemic of COVID-19 in China, and that was more serious, and however during later part of the epidemic type S was predominant. If we talk about other coronaviruses, the one epidemic which was caused by SARS coronavirus in 2002 to 2003, it provoked a large scale epidemic beginning in China and involved almost 24 countries with approximately 8,000 cases leading to 800 deaths. Similarly, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus was responsible for epidemic in 2012. It began in Saudi Arabia and approximately 2,500 cases were there and almost 800 deaths are there, and still this disease caused sporadic cases. Coming to the burden of the disease, this slide has shown that almost all of the globe has been involved by this coronavirus, and the circles here which are shown, the size of circle indicate that the number of patients, and if you see, most of the countries in the world have reported cases more than 1,000 at least. So with this we can interpret that full of the world has been involved by this new COVID-19 disease. As on 16th March, the total number of cases across the globe are 4,14,179, and almost 18,000 deaths have been recorded. If we see, all of the part of the globe has been involved, and if you see the Western Pacific region, the cases are almost 1 lakh. In European region, the cases have already crossed 2 lakhs. In Southeast Asia region, more than 2000. Eastern Mediterranean region, almost 29,000 cases are there. And if we talk about deaths, as I already told, that more than 18,400 cases have already died because of this COVID disease. This slide again shows that as of today, 4,16,686 cases are there which are confirmed, and there are 18,589 deaths due to COVID-19, and almost 197 countries has already been involved by this disease. If we talk about India, India has already crossed 600 cases due to COVID. As of now, in India there are 602 confirmed cases, and there are 43 cases have been cured, and there are 13 deaths due to COVID-19. If we look at the stage-wise distribution of this COVID-19 disease, the leading states involve Kerala, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and if you see, the Maharashtra has already more than 120 cases, in Kerala more than 110. Similarly, if we talk about death in Maharashtra there are 3, and other states which are affected by COVID-19 include the Telangana, Rajasthan, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and there are total 13 deaths till date has been reported due to COVID-19. If we talk about transmission, because we know that this coronavirus is basically a zoonotic disease, and most of the time it infects the animals, various wild animals as well as some domestic animal like camel. We should understand that as of now the understanding of the mode of transmission is not completely understood. However, the investigation till now from the Wuhan city, it has been shown that the initial association of transmission from animals to human was linked to seafoods. However, in seafood market they also sold live rabbit, snakes and other animals, and initially it was thought that probably virus originated from snakes. However, later on the studies have proved that the virus is similar to the virus which has been found in bats, and some similarity with the virus isolated from a reptile pangolin. From human to human transmission, basically initially the transmission was from animals to human, but currently human to human transmission is more important, and it is the primary source of transmission as of now. The transmission from human to human occur via droplets and fomites. You can see clearly from here that the infected person, whenever cough or sneeze, it releases the virus in the environment in the form of droplets. These droplets can travel up to 2 meters of distance. So once the infected patient cough, sneeze or talk, the virus is released in the respiratory secretions. These respiratory secretions contain the virus, and these can infect others if they make a direct contact with the mucous membrane of the other person. However, if somebody is not nearby, that means because this droplet can only travel up to 6 feet, that means 2 meters, and these usually don't linger in the air for long, these will fall down on nearby surfaces. And also we should note that patients who are symptomatic, they are most contagious. Once this droplet come in contact with different surfaces, the activity of virus differ based on the nature of the surface, and it has been shown that in the air this virus can remain active for almost 3 hours. However, on a surface of copper it can active for 4 hours. Similarly, on cardboard it can be active for 24 hours, whereas on steel and plastic the virus can remain active for as long as 3 days. So If somebody is touching the surface or object that has virus on it, and then he is touching his mouth, nose or eyes, the virus can be transmitted to the other person. There are few reports of fecal-oral route of transmission, but this route of transmission require more research. Similarly, there is no data regarding transplacental transmission of these viruses. Coming to the contagiousness and fatality, the contagiousness is measured in epidemiology by a term called as R naught. R naught basically is a number. What it indicates is on an average how many people each infected person will in turn infect in a fully susceptible population. So if R naught is more, that indicates the disease is more contagious. When we compare the recent or the current COVID-19, the R naught is around 2.8. When we compare with other diseases by other viruses, if we see Ebola, the R naught is 1.9. In seasonal influenza, it is 1.3. But if you see the smallpox and measles, especially measles, the R naught was quite high. So it was highly infectious. So the current virus COVID-19 can infect approximately 3 persons. And the same if we compare this R naught or the contagiousness with the other coronaviruses like Middle East respiratory syndrome, severe acute respiratory syndrome virus, seasonal influenza. So you can see the contagiousness of this current COVID-19 is far less than the Middle East respiratory syndrome virus as well as severe acute respiratory syndrome virus. Coming to the case fatality rate, overall the case fatality rate is approximately 4.4% across the globe. However, the case fatality rate can be influenced by various factors and different countries have reported different rates of fatality. If you see the China, there are almost 3000 reported deaths are there and the case fatality rate is around 3%. However, in other countries, especially the Italy and Spain, the case fatality rate is quite higher. Similarly, there are other countries where number of confirmed cases are less and total number of deaths are also less and case fatality rate is lesser. In United States of America, till date 673 deaths have been reported. Similarly, there are other risk factors also which if are present, they can be associated with increased fatality or worse outcome. These risk factors include the age, more than 65 years or older, people who live in nursing homes or long-term care facilities, and similarly there are other conditions such as people with chronic lung disease or heart diseases with complications, patients who are immunocompromised due to cancer treatment, bone marrow or organ transplant, immunodeficiency, poorly controlled HIV or prolonged corticosteroid usage. Similarly, there are people of any age with severe obesity or certain underlying medical conditions, particularly if they are not well controlled. For example, diabetes, renal failure or liver disease, they are also at increased risk of mortality among these due to this disease. Similarly, we should be careful regarding the pregnant women if they get this infection. Coming to the clinical features, their common clinical features described with the disease include fever, cough, shortness of breath, and if we see the most common clinical feature associated with COVID-19 is fever, which has been reported in almost 88% of patients, followed by dry cough, which has been reported in almost 70% of patients, then sputum, shortness of breath, muscle and joint pain, sore throat and headache. If we see the spectrum of the disease, almost 80% of the patient will have mild disease. That means there is either there are no symptoms or they will develop just mild pneumonia. Severe disease has been reported in almost 14% of the cases. The severe disease is characterized by dyspnea, hypoxemia or involvement of more than 50% of lungs on imaging within 24 to 48 hours of presentation. Almost 5% of patients can have critical disease, which is characterized by respiratory failure, respiratory shock or multi-organ dysfunction. and as already discussed, the death rate is around 3.4%. Then there are symptoms, because these symptoms are not specific, so these disease can be easily confused with other common illnesses which clinically can mimic COVID-19. For example, common cold, flu, allergic conditions, and these symptoms more or less are similar. However, if we compare the COVID-19 with common cold, there are few differences. For example, in common cold there will be no fever. Similarly, if we compare cough, in common cold usually cough is mild and like that. But it's difficult to differentiate just based only on symptoms between these conditions. So we have to consider the whole scenario, the history of travel, then history of contact, and so forth and so forth. Then what is the symptom course and complications? It has been described that usually dyspnea develop after median of 5 days since onset of symptoms. Hospital admission occur after median of 7 days of symptoms, and once patient is hospitalized, there are other complications which has been reported, such as arrhythmias in almost 17% of the patient. 9% patient have reported to have shock, and similarly superinfection has been described in almost 10 to 20% of patients, and respiratory co-infection with other viruses has been reported up to 25% of cases, and in hospitalized patient approximately 20% patient has been reported to develop ARDS. And in United States it has been reported that almost 1/3 of the patients had cardiomyopathy. And if we talk about recovery time, it appears around 2 weeks for mild infection, and it can vary from 3 to 6 weeks for severe diseases. There are few poor prognostic indicators. If they are there, they may be associated with poor outcome. These include age more than 65, because it has been found that the patient who are having age of more than 70 to 79 year of age, the case fatality was 8%. If we compare the people who are having age more than 80 years, this case fatality increases to double, almost 15%. And also the male gender is associated with poor prognosis. Similarly, presence of comorbidities like cardiovascular diseases, pulmonary diseases, diabetes, malignancy, and immunosuppressants are also a poor prognostic indicator. Also, there are certain lab findings which has been associated with poor outcome. These include severe lymphopenia, elevated troponin, elevated creatinine, elevated LDH, CRP, and D-dimer. So how to diagnose it? The diagnosis of COVID-19 cannot be definitely made without microbiological testing, and for this diagnosis of COVID-19 we have to detect severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 RNA, that means COVID-19 virus iron, using reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, means it requires a RT-PCR to detect the RNA of this virus. However, because of limited capacity, it may preclude testing of all patients with suspected COVID-19, and health department may have some specific criteria for testing. The priority should be given for hospitalized patient to inform the infection control decisions, and symptomatic individuals who have higher risk of poor outcomes, such as elderly, chronic medical conditions, immunosuppressive conditions, and also individual with high risk of exposure. The Indian Council of Medical Research have come up with testing strategies. These include the all symptomatic patients with fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, individual who have undertaken international travel in last 14 days, all symptomatic contacts of laboratory confirmed cases, symptomatic healthcare workers, all hospitalized patients with severe acute respiratory illness, asymptomatic direct and high risk contact of a confirmed case should be tested once between day 5 and day 14 of contact. Also, direct and high risk contact who live in the same household with a confirmed case and healthcare worker who examined a confirmed case without adequate protection as per WHO recommendation, they should be tested for this new coronavirus. The patient who meet the testing criteria should undergo testing for SARS COVID coronavirus 2 as well as other respiratory pathogens, because the same illness or same clinical feature may be because of other viruses such as influenza or respiratory syncytial virus. And the recommended specimen for this disease is nasopharyngeal swab or oropharyngeal swab. And if clinician want a lower respiratory tract samples, for example a patient who are on mechanical ventilation, they can also be subjected for testing. It is recommended that the person who is collecting the sample, they should use appropriate personal protective equipment during the specimen collection, because there is a risk of droplet generation, and there is contact precaution of upper respiratory tract specimen as well as airborne precaution for lower respiratory tract specimen. So all the precaution needs to be taken while we are collecting the samples for the investigation. And we should also make a note that the viral swabs are made of sterile dacron and rayon, not the cotton. So this needs to be kept in mind while we are taking sample, that we should use a specialized viral swab, not the cotton sticks. And also the sample should be transported in a viral transport media. So how to take nasopharyngeal swab? First, ask the patient to tilt the head back approximately 70 degrees. Then insert a flexible swab through the nares parallel to the palate until resistance is encountered or a distance is equivalent to that from ear to the nostril of the patient. Once you are there, gently rub and roll the swab. Leave the swab in place for several seconds so that it absorbs secretion before removing. Similarly, if we are taking nasopharyngeal swab, tilt the patient head back similar to the nasopharyngeal swab. Then rub the swab over both tonsillar pillar and posterior oropharynx while taking all the precaution to avoid touching the tongue, teeth and gums. And again we have to use the same synthetic fiber swab with plastic shaft, and we should not use a cotton swab. Place swab immediately into sterile tubes containing 2 to 3 ml of viral transport media. ICMR and National Institute of Virology have given a guideline how to collect this sample and how to transport and pack these samples, and they have clearly defined what all things are required for sample collection. As shown in this slide, the sample collection will require vials and viral transport medium. It will also require a adsorbent material and a leak-proof secondary container. It will require a hard frozen gel packs, a suitable outer container. And when we are packing and transporting this sample, we have to take all the precautions. For example, we have to use personal protective equipment while we are handling the samples. Then seal the neck of the sample while using paraffin film. Cover the sample while using adsorbent material. Arrange primary container in a secondary container. Place a centrifuge tube inside the ziplock pouch. Place the ziplock pouch inside a sturdy plastic container and seal the neck of the container using a thermocol box and an outer container, and placing secondary container within it surrounded by a hard frozen gel pack. Use a hardcore board box as an outer container and placing the secondary container and gel packs inside it. Then completed specimen referral form needs to be filled. Secure the ziplock pouch with specimen referral form on outer container of this, and we have to attach all the labels over it. The other laboratory investigation which can be done include the complete blood counts, which can show lymphocytopenia, which is quite common. The elevated lactate dehydrogenase as well as ferritin levels are common. Similarly, raised liver enzymes are common. However, fulminant hepatitis is not reported. The patient can also show raised urea and creatinine levels. Similarly, As for other severe pneumonias, we need to send blood culture, sputum, endotracheal aspirate, urine for Legionella antigen, and like that. If we talk about X-ray, X-ray is not very specific. It is non-specific and it can show bilateral infiltrates, and it can be normal also in mild cases. Coming to CT scan, one should remember that CT scan is not necessary because there is a during transport. One thing is there is a transporter difficulty. Second thing is a healthcare work risk of exposure. So we should avoid asking for CT scan for the COVID disease. And if it is done, the common abnormality include the ground glass opacification with or without confederation, which is a usual feature of viral pneumonia. Mostly it is a bilateral disease and have a peripheral distribution. Usually it involves lower lobes. So to conclude, COVID-19 is a new disease caused by a new virus which has been designated as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. It belongs to a coronaviridae family. It is primarily a zoonotic disease which infect the wild animals including bat, pangolin, few cattle. The previous epidemic due to coronavirus include severe acute respiratory syndrome, the Middle East respiratory syndrome, and H1N1 influenza. COVID-19 is transmitted from bats to human. In human to human transmission, the droplet and fomites are central part to play. Understanding of various epidemiological aspects are important for any preventive and therapeutic intervention. Fever, dry cough, and dyspnea are common symptoms of this disease. Confirmation of diagnosis is required. Demonstration of this virus RNA in the respiratory samples by RT-PCR. Prioritization is required for optimum utilization of limited health resources for the diagnosis.